The clock ticked past midnight. March 5th, 2036. Happy 33rd birthday, Sam. He lay in bed, the city's hum a distant lullaby. Exhaustion pulled at him, dragging him under. Darkness. Then the sensation of falling. No, not falling, being pushed. His body landed heavy on something soft yet unyielding. He opened his eyes, expecting his ceiling. Instead, two violet moons hung in a sky swirling with colors he couldn't name. Sam sat up, heart pounding. He was in his closed jeans, t-shirt, the worn leather jacket he practically lived in. This was no ordinary dream. This felt real. He stood, taking in the landscape. Giant bioluminescent plants swayed around him, casting eerie shadows. The air buzzed with a strange energy, making his skin tingle. A low growl made him spin around. A creature unlike anything he'd ever seen stood a few feet away. It resembled a panther, but its fur shimmered with emerald scales, and its eyes glowed with an internal fire. Fear, primal and immediate, shot through him, but before he could react, the creature bowed its head in a gesture of respect. It turned and padded away, disappearing into the luminous undergrowth. He was alone, yet he sensed he was being watched, guided. A path, barely visible, wound its way through the strange flora. He had no choice but to follow. The path led him through a forest of impossible beauty. Trees taller than skyscrapers reached for the swirling sky. Creatures of light and shadow flitted through the undergrowth, their forms constantly shifting. He saw beings of pure energy, their laughter echoing like chimes in the wind. He saw creatures woven from moonlight and dreams, their eyes holding ancient wisdom. This world pulsed with a life force he could almost reach out and touch. It filled him with a sense of awe, a reverence for something far greater than himself. He wasn't just dreaming this, he was experiencing it, living it, every fiber of his being vibrating with its energy. He emerged into a clearing bathed in the warm light of the larger moon. In the center, a figure sat cross-legged, seemingly as old as time itself. The figure looked up, and Sam felt a jolt of recognition, though he couldn't recall ever seeing this person before. "You have journeyed far, Samuel," the man said, his voice a low rumble. "Who are you?" Sam asked, his own voice a dry rasp. "I am called Ishmael," the man replied, a small smile playing on his lips. "This realm, this dream, it is but one of many. You have touched the fabric of existence, Samuel. You have felt the pulse of the universe." Ishmael spoke of ancient mysteries, of the interconnectedness of all things. He spoke of the power of dreams, of their ability to heal and guide. "Come," Ishmael said, rising to his feet. "There is more you need to see." He led Sam to the base of a mountain that seemed to pierce the very heavens. It shimmered with an inner light as if carved from a single gigantic gemstone. As they started to climb, the air grew thinner, colder. Sam's breath came in ragged gasps. He felt a pressure building in his chest, a tightness he couldn't explain. "This is a sacred place," Ishmael said, his voice calm and steady. "A place of power. But be warned, Samuel, it will challenge you. It will test the very limits of your perception." Fear warred with fascination within Sam. He had never felt so alive, so aware of the raw power humming beneath the surface of everything. They reached the summit. A temple, ancient and majestic, stood before them, its architecture a symphony of impossible angles and curves. As Sam touched the cool stone, a wave of energy surged through him, knocking him to his knees. He looked up. The sky had opened, revealing a swirling vortex of light. It pulled at him, beckoned him closer. He felt himself rising, weightless, drawn towards the light. He looked back at Ishmael, who offered a knowing smile and a slight nod. Then, Sam was pulled through the vortex, the dream world fading around him. He was falling again, but this time, it was exhilarating. He soared through a kaleidoscope of colors and shapes, the wind screaming past him. Below, he saw glimpses of other worlds, other realities. He woke with a gasp, the morning light filtering through his blinds. His heart hammered against his ribs, his body still tingling with the residual energy of the dream. He sat up in bed, disoriented, trying to ground himself in the familiar surroundings of his small apartment. The city noises that usually faded into the background now seemed sharper, clearer. The smell of coffee brewing in the apartment next door, the distant wail of a siren, the chirping of birds outside his window, it all felt amplified, imbued with a new significance. He couldn't shake the feeling that he'd been touched by something profound, something life-altering. The dream, if that's what it was, clung to him like a second skin. He went about his day in a daze. the mundane tasks of his life feeling strangely insignificant compared to the vast mystical realm he'd experienced. The line between dream and reality blurred. He started seeing flashes of the dream world in everyday life. The way sunlight filtering through leaves mimicked the bioluminescent glow of the alien plants. The way a stranger's laugh on the street echoed the chime-like laughter of the energy beings. He began researching his family history, drawn to ancient cultures and their myths. He felt an inexplicable connection to symbols and stories he'd never encountered before. One evening, while looking through old family photos, he stumbled upon a faded picture of his great-grandmother. She wore a necklace with a strange symbol, the same symbol he'd seen on a temple wall in his dream. A shiver ran down his spine. It was more than just a dream. It was a message, a key, unlocking hidden chambers within himself, revealing connections he never knew existed. He stood on the rooftop of his apartment building, the city lights spread out before him like a vast, glittering tapestry. Above, the night sky shimmered with stars, reminding him of the swirling, colorful expanse of the dream world. Was it real? Or just a figment of his imagination, a product of his subconscious? He didn't have the answers, but he knew one thing. His life had been irrevocably changed. He was no longer content with the mundane. He craved knowledge, connection, understanding. He looked up at the stars, a question burning in his heart. Were they just distant suns, or were they portals to other realms, other possibilities? He took a deep breath, the cool night air filling his lungs. The journey had just begun,